In a shocking incident, an inebriated male passenger exposed himself and urinated on a female passenger who was seated in a business class seat on board an Air India flight from New York to New Delhi. The woman alerted the cabin crew subsequently, but they did not apprehend the unruly passenger, who walked off scot-free after the flight had landed in the national capital. Now, in a heart-wrenching letter to the Tata Group chairman, the woman narrated her traumatic experience, and in the letter she said that shortly after lunch had been served and the lights were switched off, another passenger walked to her seat in a completely inebriated state. He then unzipped his pants and relieved himself and continued to expose the woman to his private parts. The woman further alleged that she was forced to sit on the soiled seat, which reeked of urine, smelt of urine, for almost 2 hours, as no other seat in the business class section was available. Meanwhile, Air India has also issued a statement regarding what had transpired, stating that it is committed to provide justice to the woman passenger in question. An FIR has been registered in this case, and the unruly passenger has been banned from flying with Air India for a period of 1 month. Now, an internal committee has also been formed, which has been probing this incident. Arunil, let me in fact come to you. Tell us about the follow-up action that's now been initiated on the part of the airline, because this is not just a case of unruly behavior. Many would in fact say this actually is tantamount to sexual harassment as well.
Well, one can raise a question, Siddharth, that whether Air India as a company was late in giving out a statement, because the incident happened on November 26th. The woman basically is saying that she highlighted to the authorities inside the plane as well. She highlighted to the authorities in the airport at New Delhi also. But despite that, the person in question, the accused over here, he was allowed to go scot-free from the New Delhi airport. And the kind of allegations that the woman has raised over here, the claims that she is making are extremely horrific, basically saying that this person was in a completely drunken state, in an inebriated state. He came to her seat and he basically urinated on her belongings, on her as well. And that is when the woman, basically the elderly woman, has blamed the crew members inside this flight as well. It was a long haul flight. She basically is saying that what was the need to give this person.
I just have to interrupt you there for a moment, Arunil. We're in fact getting a perspective from lawyer Abha Singh as well. Thank you, ma'am, for speaking to us. This isn't just a case of unruly behavior. If he's exposed his private parts to the lady in question, it is also tantamount to sexual harassment, is it not, ma'am? And what kind of a follow-up action should the DGCA now initiate?
Of course, showing private parts like the way he unzipped his trousers, it becomes an offence under 354 of the IPC. And not only that, also other sections where you have violated the modesty of a woman, which is 509 of the IPC. A strong FIR needs to be registered and action needs to be taken against these flyers. They may travel business class, but their behavior is gutter class, is all I can say, because such behavior cannot be tolerated. Air India should be the one person go register an FIR and take action.
And one more question, what more could the airline have done? Because there is outrage over the fact that this man, after having landed in New Delhi, was allowed to go home scot-free. Could the airline have actually initiated much stronger action against him, perhaps called in the police at the Delhi airport itself once the plane had landed?
Absolutely, because not only 509, which says word, gesture or act which is intended to insult the modesty of the woman, even molestation 304, exposing private parts or anything which has a sexual connotation, is a criminal offence. So they should have arrested him right away. In fact, they should have not let him go, called the police at the airport. In fact, they should have informed the local police. The police should have come there and registered a case against him rather than let him go scot-free. Right. And which would give a message that anything is possible. You can get away with doing anything vulgar and nothing is going to happen.
Right. Many thanks, Ms. Abha Singh, for speaking to us. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, activist, also joins us. Ms. Shaukat Ali, this is an outrageous incident and serious questions also now being asked of the airline for what has been perceived as inaction on their part after this horrible incident.
Absolutely, it is horrifying, and it is a sick person only who can do such things. And how can the airlines, not talk about it, be silent? And this has happened on the 26th of November. I think we have to have a serious investigation, and the man has to be drastically punished, because this kind of filth cannot be tolerated. And how many indignities are we going to pile on women? It's one after the other that is happening, and there is no action that we see that has to be immediately taken.
Absolutely. And that inaction is something that many people are now questioning. Let me, in fact, go across to my colleague. Thank you, Ms. Shaukat Ali, for your perspective there. Let me go across to my colleague, Krithvi Invalia. Over the serious questions now being asked on the part of Air India, what should the crew on board as well as the ground staff have actually done after this incident took place? Yes, Krithvi.
There are several questions being asked of the airlines. Forget what happened and what the timeline really was, but here's what the crew should have done and here's what they didn't do. The actions taken by the airlines in the case. Under the unruly passenger norms, the commander makes a report on landing. While this is what needs to be done, remember, the cabin crew should have informed the commander, but that did not happen. That's the first action that should have been taken. The second action that should have been taken is they should have isolated the unruly passenger. He continued to remain seated. He continued to unboard the flight as well, continued to leave the airport scot-free. None of that happened. None of that happened. Action number 3 that should have come in from the airline's part, they should have handed him over to the airline security on landing. Why is it that despite this kind of unruly behavior, shocking behavior to see the least, he was allowed to walk out of the plane, he was allowed to leave the airport, he was not handed over to the airline's authority. Unruly passenger should have been handed over to the local police. Forget the local police, Siddharth. That's the first big question. The case was not reported. No action was taken on part of the crew. The commander was not informed. A series of lapses that come to light. The fifth action that should have been taken, an FIR should have been filed against the unruly passenger right away. But there was a delay of a good month. Yes. One long month delay that we're talking about. So none of those rules, protocols having been followed by the airlines gives this thing to all the questions that now come to light.
Absolutely. Now, the FIR, as we know, is being registered after this incident that took place on board an Air India flight on the 26th of November. The matter was reported to Air India by the female passenger in question, after which a complaint was given to the police on behalf of Air India on the 28th of December, which is an entire month after the incident has already taken place. Bhavtosh has some more details. Bhavtosh, what can you tell us about some of the sections that have been slapped against this passenger in question, and why has it taken more than a month for this action to be initiated?
Well, as far as the police is concerned, senior officers have said that they have booked the accused in this case under very stringent sections of IPC, making this case a non-bailable one. Though the accused has not yet been arrested, he has been booked under section 354A, which is sexual harassment and molestation. Sections 298, which is public nuisance, 506, which is criminal intimidation, and 509, which is words, acts, or gestures that lower the dignity of women. Now, what the police claims is that the airline itself came around 1 month, 2 days after the incident has taken place. But Siddharth, the fact remains that all the parties concerned, whether it's the airline or the police, they all acted only when the news report became public, when the media highlighted this harrowing experience of the passenger, and only then the police as well as the airline as well as DGCA reacted to this, and they started initiating an inquiry into this. Even there is a laxity on the part of the police for the simple fact that the FIR has now been registered. DGCA has now said that they have ordered an inquiry, and even the airline has now officially issued a statement. So all three parties concerned are at fault, and one hopes that the accused is identified and he gets arrested. The police on its part has said they had telephone spoken to the victim.
Okay, so an FIR has been registered, a serious section slapped, and the investigations have begun. Thank you for that update.